Get out of my house. You are a failure. Do not come back until you can act like a real man. She threw his suitcase onto the wet driveway. Not knowing that 10 black SUVs were already turning onto their street, get out of my house. Ow. A failure. And do not come back until you can act like a real man. The words cut through the quiet evening like a blade. Daniel Hayes stood on the porch of the home he had helped build, his hands hanging at his sides, his jaw tight but calm. Rain soaked through his thin jacket. His suitcase hit the pavement and burst open, clothes spilling into a shallow puddle. Neighbors peeked through their curtains. Some stepped onto their lawns. No one said a word. Daniel did not argue. He did not raise his voice. He did not defend himself. He simply looked at his wife, Clara, with tired eyes that had seen far worse. Than this, she thought he was poor. She thought he had failed. She thought he had wasted years chasing dreams that brought in no money. What she did not know was that 10 black SUVs were moving toward their street in perfect silence. Daniel had always looked like an ordinary man. Broad shoulders, steady hands, a faint scar running along his temple.
Ow.
The kind of man who fixed the sink without complaint and carried heavy boxes without asking for help. But beneath that calm face lived memories that woke him at night. He was a decorated veteran. Years ago, he had stood in a desert where the air tasted like dust and metal. The sun had burned his skin raw. The ground had shaken under heavy boots and distant blasts. He had carried wounded men on his back while smoke stung his eyes. He had held a young soldier in his arms as that soldier whispered about wanting to see his mother again. Daniel still remembered the smell of sand mixed with fuel, the weight of a helmet pressing against his skull, the sound of his own heartbeat pounding louder than the chaos around him. He had promised himself one thing during those nights under a sky full of cold stars. If he made it home, he would build something bigger than himself, something that would help other veterans who returned with scars no one could see. He came back quieter than before, not broken, but changed. The world felt too loud. Simple arguments felt small. He invested his savings into a small tech company that focused on creating mental health tools for veterans. The company did not show profit in the first few years. Investors pulled out. Friends advised him to quit. Clara had supported him at first. She had believed in the uniform, the medals, the hero. But she struggled to believe in the quiet businessman who spent late nights staring at numbers and strategy plans that did not pay the bills fast enough. Bills stacked up. Luxury vacations stopped. The new car was sold. Clara began to measure his worth by what he brought home each month. She did not see the calls he made to struggling soldiers at midnight. She did not see the letters from families thanking him for saving their sons from despair. All she saw was a bank account that did not match the life she imagined. So that evening, after another tense dinner filled with silence, she broke. She told him she was tired of living with a dreamer. Tired of pretending they were fine. Tired of defending him to her friends. The rain began to fall as if the sky itself felt the weight of her words. Daniel listened without anger. His silence was not weakness. It was control. A true soldier knows that not every battle is fought with noise. When she ordered him to leave, he picked up his suitcase and walked down the porch steps with slow dignity. The neighbors watched, their faces lit by porch lights. Some whispered. Some shook their heads. Public shame can feel heavier than armor. Daniel bent down and calmly gathered his clothes from the wet ground. He folded each piece with care, even as water dripped from his sleeves. His movements were steady. There was no rush in him, no panic. Clara crossed her arms, certain she had made the right choice. In her mind, she was freeing herself from a sinking ship. Then, in the distance, headlights appeared. At first, it was just one pair, then two, then many. The low hum of engines grew louder as 10 black SUVs turned onto the quiet suburban street. They moved in perfect line, polished and powerful, reflecting the streetlights on their dark surfaces. Neighbors stepped closer to the edge of the road. Curtains opened wider. Children pointed. The convoy stopped directly in front of Daniel. Doors opened almost at once. Men and women in sharp suits stepped out. Some wore small pins shaped like eagles on their lapels. Others carried tablets and folders. Their posture was straight. Their eyes were focused only on him. Clara's arms slowly dropped to her sides. One of the suited men walked toward Daniel and stopped a few steps away. Did not look at the house. He did not glance at the neighbors. He looked only at Daniel with deep respect. "Sir, we have been trying to reach you. The contract has been approved. All 10 states signed this morning. The funding is secured." A quiet wave passed through the crowd. The man continued, his voice calm but filled with pride. "Your program will now be the national standard for veteran mental health support. The president asked us to personally escort you to the signing ceremony tonight." Clara felt the air leave her lungs. Daniel stood still for a moment. Rain slid down his face, mixing with something warmer in his eyes. Not triumph, not revenge, just quiet relief. He closed his suitcase gently. Another woman stepped forward, her voice softer. "Thousands of families will sleep easier because of what you built. You did not give up on them when it was hard." Daniel nodded once. He did not look at Clara with anger. He did not speak a single word of blame. Instead, he turned to the neighbors, who had watched his humiliation just minutes earlier. He spoke calmly, his voice steady. "A man's worth is not measured by the noise around him. It is measured by the lives he lifts when no one is watching." The words hung in the air, simple but powerful. Clara's mind raced back through every late night she had dismissed. Every quiet dinner where he looked tired but determined. Every time he chose to answer a call from a struggling veteran instead of arguing back, she realized she had mistaken silence for failure. But Daniel had learned long ago that real strength does not beg to be understood. As the rain slowed, one of the drivers held an umbrella over him. Daniel gently waved it away. It stood in storms far worse than this. Another suited official handed him a folded flag encased in glass. It was a symbol of service and sacrifice. The neighbors gasped softly when they saw the medals pinned. Inside the case as well, Clara felt small, not because he had become powerful, but because she had not seen the power in him all along. Daniel finally turned toward her. His eyes held no hatred, only truth. Respect is not given when success arrives. It is given when the journey is still hard. Those standing nearby felt the weight of that line settle deep in their chests. Clara stepped forward, her voice shaking, but Daniel raised his hand gently, not to silence her in anger, but to protect the peace he had fought so long to build. "There are battles we survive," he said quietly, "that no one else can see." The SUVs idled behind him like a silent army of support. The same street that had witnessed his shame now witnessed his honor. Neighbors who had whispered earlier now stood in stunned silence. Some placed hands over their hearts. Others lowered their heads in quiet respect. The man who had once looked like a failure on a rainy driveway now stood revealed as a leader whose work would change thousands of lives. Daniel walked toward the first SUV. Before entering, he paused and looked back at the house. Not with longing, not with regret, but with gratitude for the lesson it had just given him. "Success does not shout," he said softly, almost to himself. "It arrives when the mission is complete." He stepped inside the vehicle. The door closed with calm finality. The convoy pulled away slowly, headlights cutting through the damp night. Clara remained on the porch, rain cooling her flushed cheeks. She understood too late that wealth is not always loud, and greatness is not always dressed in shine. True strength often stands quietly in the storm, waiting for its time. In the days that followed, news channels spoke of Daniel Hayes, the veteran, who built a lifeline for soldiers across the nation. His program expanded. Letters poured in. Communities rallied. But those who had stood on that street would always remember the deeper truth. They had seen a man thrown out as if he were nothing. They'd seen him gather his clothes from a puddle, without complaint, and they had seen 10 black SUVs arrive not to save him, but to honor what he had quietly built. Because silent dignity is stronger than public doubt. And sometimes, the world tests a man not to break him, but to reveal him. If this story moved you, share where you are watching from. Tell us if you have ever been judged before your time. And remember to subscribe for more stories that honor the quiet heroes who never stop standing even when the storm begins. ***.